Good morning, people, and welcome to United View. Welcome to the Morning View show. And the news keeps newsing. We've got a lot to talk about this morning, man. This takeover thing isn't going to be easy. It really is not going to be easy. Smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. If you are new, join the membership. If you would like to join the membership as well. If you're on your way to work, if you've got the kids, if you're on the school run, if you're just chilling, if you've got the day off work, if you work from home, or you're not even working, you're just off and you're just chilling. Get a cup of coffee / tea, hot chocolate, whatever you have, and sit down and take this in. Good morning to you all. Owen, we spoke a little. There's been little murmurs, and we have said many times that new bidders will rear their head. We have said that obviously it does look like a majority sale, and it does look like the Glazers are going to sell the football club. However, we have been prepared for other little bits and pieces as well. And now there's a really concerning bit of news that's come out in regards to this takeover. What is it?
Yes, so prior to yesterday, I think it was Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, it had been reported that the hedge fund group Elliott had put in a bid, or a proposal rather, to purchase Manchester United. And there was a lot of sort of confusion about this bid, saying it wasn't an actual takeover bid of the club, rather it was sort of financial backing. They were willing to financially back somebody's bid, or someone or something, some entity. Well, more details have since come to light about that, and it comes from Mark Ogden and ESPN in general, which again would make sense considering it's an American group, saying the Glazer family have been offered the financial backing to remain as owners of Manchester United by American hedge fund Elliott Management. Elliott Management's emergence in the sale process of Manchester United opens up the prospect of Joel and Avram Glazer to retain an interest in the club. Elliott Management's proposal for Manchester United is for, quote, possible financing, not a bid for the club. Elliott, who have assets of $55 billion, made their proposal to Rain last week and are prepared to help finance a bid. Now, a little bit on top of this as well, because obviously you could say, well, the Glazers, that might be the key that they're looking for to stay at the club. But there's also a little bit added on that comes from the Times, saying that the Glazers actually might be upset with some of the statements that have already been put out there about the bids surrounding the club. Now, this comes from Matt Lawson from the Times, saying bidders for Manchester United have been told to stop running public campaigns which could damage the Glazer family following the official start of the race to take control of the club. A statement from Qatar, that bid is understood to have caused consternation among those running the process of the sale for Manchester United, with the promise to return the club to its former glories seen as implied criticism of the present owner. The statements from Ineos and Qatar prompted Rain, the New York bank managing the sale of Manchester United for the Glazers, to firmly remind bidders that the process is meant to be private, having been required to sign comprehensive non-disclosure agreements. So, two parts to that, Fleck, there. First of all, that there could be this option that we as fans didn't even think there would be. We'd said a million times, right? Who would invest a couple of billion into the club just for a minority stake and the Glazers stick around? Well, Elliott might be that group that's willing to do that.
Yeah, let's dive into this section first, because I think the other section of them being, unhappy with their reputation being smeared and people, in their bids basically looking at, I think is absolutely laughable. We'll get to that because they just stink, the Glazers. They really do. Right. So they could stay. I mean, when that news first broke, my thing was, who are they going to fight? I didn't even think it would be the Glazers, which is quite stupid of me, actually. I kind of went, they've said that they've got $5 billion to put down, but that's almost what the club, what the selling point is. So that's basically buying it. But they don't want a majority stake. So who are they gonna? Who's this person or people? And then you get the news that it's the Glazers, and honestly, it is the worst possible news to hear that could happen. I'm not saying it will. We don't know, but it's the worst sort of news to hear, because the thing that we've been hell-bent on is understanding that the Glazers have run out of money. The thing that we've understood the most is, as much as wanting the Glazers out, the reason why it's possible for the Glazers to be out, and the reason why the selling process and bidding process has even began, is because they've run out of money, right? They haven't taken dividends. They know that they need an injection of cash to be able to take the club to the next level. And it was absolutely certain, which we all know, that the Glazers didn't want to front this money up themselves. And then it becomes a point of, and who would really want to, like you say, get into bed with the Glazers for, you know, put $1 billion in or $2 billion in. You look into your left and you're like, I've put all this money in, you know, to regenerate the club, and you're just sitting there not putting anything in. Who's going to be stupid enough to do that? And now you've got a group in Elliott who are stupid enough to do that. We found them. And you know what? Could be really good friends with the Glazers. I am putting 2 and 2 together. I might be getting 5. I don't know. But, you know, American, group, that, you know, they might have good relationships with the Glazers. Hence, well, you'd have to have a pretty good relationship with the Glazers to want to give them £5 billion of your money and have a minority stake.
Yeah, and they were
interested in getting 100%, but they can finance a $5 billion injection of cash, which is absolutely insane. You have to be like the Glazers' best mate, probably the Glazers' cousins or something.
Well, this is the thing. We don't know if it's the full $5 billion or anything like that. It could just be the required amount for the investment that they're looking for. I.e., it could just be
1 or 2 billion.
1 or 2 billion to do the stadium, to do the training ground, or whatever it may be. Now, Elliott also, previously, they were the owners of AC Milan before they sold to their latest owners, and they did a terrible job. I mean, a terrible job. They got hit with FFP sanctions and all that kind of stuff. So maybe that's why they're not looking for full ownership. But to your point, it is a massive, massive worry and a concern, because that whole, like, the Glazers, they might be looking for a partial stake or a minority stake. It was almost laughed off a little bit. Yeah, you got concerned when you saw the news, but you went, come on. Who in reality would be willing to do that? They're not going to buy out their siblings and all this kind of stuff. I mean, I saw Gary Neville put a really good point across yesterday when he said that some people even speculate that the announcement itself that they're looking for strategic alternatives and these takeover bids, that can just drive the sale price up enough to the point that when they do buy out their siblings are sort of made whole and they get the appropriate price really they're looking for. And then they still retain 100% of the club. And it's a worry because as has been said a million times, nothing truly is off the table. And that's the concern.
That's the worrying thing there, because when you see that their proposal is not for a bid, it's for financing. You know, that's literally a bid to facilitate the Glazers staying at the football club where Avram and Joel can stay here. It literally is that. This is the perfect scenario for the Glazers, and I'm not going to be. I don't want to be too pessimistic here, guys, or act like, the takeover's over, Qatar's not going to get it, so Jim Ratcliffe's not going to get it, or anybody else. And the Glazers, I'm not saying, oh my God, the Glazers are staying. Look at this. But I ain't going to lie to you. I'm not going to sit here in the morning and act like I'm not concerned by hearing that. Because if you was to create a perfect scenario for the Glazers, this would be it. We haven't got any money. Can someone give us some so that we can stay here? The stadium gets built. This is even if they use the money, right? Because you don't even trust them to do that, by the way. That's the next thing. But let's argue that they did, which probably they wouldn't anyway. But let's say, there's 1 billion for the stadium. There's another billion for, you know, the redevelopment of the training ground and, you know, women's team, youth team, etc., etc. So there's 2 billion there. And then let's say the whole investment was 3 billion, right? That is the perfect situation for the Glazers to stay at the football club, and that is the worst thing. That is the worst thing.
To your point,
devastating.
To your point, who's even to say that they would spend it appropriately? Like,
that's what I'm saying.
They've done the bare minimum throughout their entire tenure. So even with everything they have to do, stadium, training ground, with all that money, they might go, let's just do the bare minimum. let's just do the, you know what I mean? Let's do the bare minimum. Exactly.
Really showed us when there was guys on scaffolding giving it a lick of paint. You know, they've jazzed up the front. Where the megastore is, where the glass is, they change that the big canvas every so often, make it look a bit nicer. There's no changes. Let's be real.
The concern I have now is that because this is just now another option on the table, right? So you've got, like you said, you've got the Qatari bid, you've got the Sir Jim Ratcliffe bid, and now you've got this proposal for possibly financing.
That word.
Then now the concern is it's in the hands of the Glazers to make the choice of, okay, do we want to stay or not? Not about like, what's the best bid? It's a case of them going, actually, do we want to stay or not?
We have all possible outcomes in our hands, and you didn't want the Glazers to have that. You wanted them to remain in a situation of, you've got no money, you have to sell. and you won't put money in yourself. Where are you going to get it from? So you have to secure it. And actually, you can take your greedy asses out because you bought the club for 500 million and you're selling it for 5 to 6 billion. You've made all your money. This is exactly what you want to hear. Not someone offering them a lifeline. Go, well, I tell you what, if you want to stay
if you want to.
I'll give you some of that money. I tell you what, just put me in on the dividends list as well. We'll take money out together. Absolutely stinks. I'm not gonna lie, bro. I am proper worried about this. I am proper worried about this.
And also as well, I mean, I suppose it was somewhat naive of us to think that the possibility of this might not happen, because I guess in general business, this stuff does happen all the time. They're a hedge fund. Like, what do? They inject cash into companies so they can have a stake, and then they can say we're stakeholders in Manchester United. And that is, and again, like you said, it is a worry, because my concern now is that if that's an offer on the table, the Glazers have shown a history of picking the option that benefits them the best. And what benefits them the best? A total sale or remaining around again, and continuing the cash cow. Oh, it's been rejuvenated. Brilliant. We can stick around. That option is terrifying. That's terrifying.
It is terrifying, because we've literally gone from, and this is why we had to kind of keep calm and keep steady until, a bid had been accepted at least, because you just don't know where this thing's going to go. Because essentially, we could end up in a worse position. And I hate to be really doom and gloom here, right? Because we look at what our manager's doing, we look at our team, we look at how proud we are of this team and how in love we are with this football club again, right? And it isn't to do with the Glazers, but we look at why we are. It's because of Erik ten Hag. It's because of the decisions that have been made recently have been better. Have to agree with that. But then you get this euphoria of, oh my God, you know what? The Glazers, we're actually going to get it. There's not going to be no more Glazers out singing it. Like, they're going to go. Like, they're a legitimate bids. Like, they are going to cash in on this football club. Okay, they've made their money and it's disgusting, but at least they're gone. They're gone forever. And now we're in a situation where we're going, we could have dabbled into what it would life without the Glazers and starting to, get into that mindset of, wow, the new owners come, they're going to invest into this. And imagine Erik ten Hag with ownership, like that, whether it's Sir Jim Ratcliffe or the Qataris or whoever, anyone not the Glazers. And now we're like, this is worse. This is, imagine Erik ten Hag having to work under this regime continuously for the rest of his stay and foreseeable. We want Erik ten Hag to be. I want Erik ten Hag to be the next Sir Alex Ferguson. I want him to be successful enough that he could be the manager for the next 10, 15, 20 years. Yeah. But, we know what happens with the Glazer ownership. And I have got no confidence, and I guarantee none of you have either, that if they stay, I don't care what bullshit they say in the manifesto about they're committed to this or they're not committed to shit. Because that's going to be the next thing if it goes down that route. They have a little manifesto, we've received this funding or this, that, and the other. And it would be absolutely catastrophic. I'm telling you now, if they stay at this football club with the backing, because that allows them to just rest, like you said, not even guaranteed that they spend the money correctly, back to taking out dividends. Erik ten Hag has got two hands tied behind his back, but because he's such a fantastic manager, he's covering the cracks. And that's why I know it's stupid to compare Sir Alex Ferguson and Erik ten Hag, because I'm not doing that as a whole. But what I am doing is drawing on that principle of, we had the Glazers when Sir Alex was here, and ex-Man United players will tell you about it, and fans will. It wasn't that, because outside the football clubs, there's this misconception that, it's only because we're rubbish now that we're moaning about the Glazers. Sir Alex Ferguson did a flipping good job at masking the Glazers' flaws, because he was unreal. Things never got beyond surface level damage, because Sir Alex Ferguson always found a way to win and was absolutely brilliant. Yes, okay, we were in for some of the biggest players and could afford the biggest players, but that was off the back of Man United. We still spend at that rate now. We can still be in for the big players now, money-wise, in terms of bringing them to the football club. We've done it. We've done it in our period of mediocrity. So that's always been the case. But how Erik ten Hag is masking the flaws of the Glazers, couldn't even bring in a striker, had to get Wout Weghorst for 4 million, had to get an emergency loan in Sabitzer. These are things, and still found good players. That's Erik ten Hag. It's not the Glazers. So I'm not comparing him to Sir Alex Ferguson, but he will have to do a Sir Alex Ferguson-esque job if they stay here, which is mask all the flaws of what they bring to this football club and make miracles, and that's not really possible in this day and age, like how Sir Alex did, because of the money that's in the game and how far ahead the other teams are.
Well, and I think also as well with this situation, it gives the Glazers a stronger hand in this entire process. I.e., we have heard all of these reports saying that they want 6 billion quid. They want 6 billion quid, and all of these offers are like, we ain't giving you 6 billion quid. That's bullshit. It's not worth that. You know, we're giving you 4.5, maybe 5, but we're not going to 6. That's ridiculous. Now the Glazers can go to these interested parties, whether it's Qatar, whether it's Sir Jim, whether it's someone else, and say to them, look, you give us 6 billion or we're staying. We've got an option to stay. Now we're in the position where we don't have to sell. Now it's about, can we get the best price? So whilst it doesn't mean, you know, that they're definitely going to stay, it just means that that's a stronger option on the table. And I think, again, to your point, you know, it's just incredibly concerning because we almost, and I say we've had a taste, and we haven't even really had a taste.
Not a real taste. It's just the closest we've ever come.
The idea. It's just the idea of what it might taste like. You know
and
what I mean?
Actual bids and actual real life bids, and it is actually up for sale though.
We've seen the statements. We've seen statements. Yeah. Go, oh God, my goodness! And you start, and it's at a time in which United are playing well, and they are playing the best football, and they do have the best manager that they've had in years, and it all feels like it's happened at the same time, doesn't it? And you go, oh, things are really starting to look up, and it's the hope that kills you sometimes, isn't it? Because we finally have had that little bit of hope for this to actually happen. If it indeed were to happen, you'd be like, I also think to myself that if they really went down this route and they released a statement saying we're delighted to announce that Elliott as performer, blah blah blah, you know what I mean, and that happened, I just cannot fathom what kind of reaction that would be from the fan base.
Well, that's what I was just about to talk about, right? That was my next point. This is the next thing that worries me, Owen, and you guys at home. Let's get this right. Do you think the Glazers give a shit? I hate swearing at this early in the morning. Sorry, kids, if you're just having your breakfast, and this has just really angered me. Yeah, it's not. I apologize, but this has really got me going this morning. I'm really concerned about this. Right? Do you think the Glazers give a crap about public perception or fan perception? Because let's have it right. Let's look at their perception now. Before the club was up for sale, right? Let's look at, they never come to the games. They don't care. They know they can't come to the games because they get run out of Old Trafford. Let's just have it right. That's just how it is. It's best that they stay away. Every man and his dog and woman at the club would advise them, just don't come. Yeah. And not that they particularly dying to come and they just can't because of safety. They don't care, right? They don't care. The club's been rotten. And they've still taken dividends every single year up until now, until there isn't any. That is the next thing that worries me, is that out of all the owners, there couldn't be worse owners in terms of what you just said there. Let's think of the criteria of not staying here, of what it's like to stay here. Sorry. Okay, so we can maybe return Man United back to its glory, or we can buy a new stadium, we can do this, we can do that. And one of the siblings goes, Avram, what do you reckon people think of us though, man? Do you think at that point one of them's going to go, I didn't think about that actually, probably not going to yeah, let's sell. They are not going. That won't even cross their mind. But they will be right. It would be awful.
I was thinking more sort of protest. I was thinking more like that. Like,
write it out.
What
they've always done it.
Could it be on a level that it wasn't even at before?
Maybe.
Because it's closer to the actual goal than it was previously.
Maybe
previously it was
that
at
game's called off a couple times, all of that. But it's essentially, and this is the thing that really annoys me. Essentially, it would go back to the thing that it always was. The fact is that the decision remains with the Glazers. We campaigned for years.
They don't want to sell. Yeah.
They don't want to sell, and that would be this. They don't want to sell because they've got enough money to stay. And their advice from their people, their PR team, would be, it will blow over. They'll have a few protests. Ten Hag will keep taking this team forward because he's an absolutely fantastic manager, and it will blow over. Especially, and I'm not saying that we should do this, but especially it would validate them if we win a couple trophies, we start competing for because again, Ten Hag's doing such a great job. Or mask it in the summer. Maybe give us a good transfer window. Maybe give us one. Maybe, you got this player, got that player. And don't get me wrong, it would still be Glazers out. It always has been. It always has been Glazers out. But they're capable, that family, and how volatile they are and how greedy they are, I'm telling you now, that family is capable of doing this. And that's what scares me about this. It's not the fans, it's not us. We're capable of going to war. We're capable of continual protests and, back-to-back protests and being really loud and being really vocal. And that's what would have to happen if they stayed here. But essentially, my personal opinion is that would, even if there was a protest every week, they've made their decision. They would have made their decision.
It's just terrifying to think that because one of the dividends are twice a year, and they're June and January or something like that. To
watch it start flying
if
back out
if we were back in June and we went, there's the dividends are coming back out. Can you just imagine? It'd be heartbreaking knowing that where we've been, and again, maybe it's just a situation to these other possible buyers of like, I know you said you didn't want to bend over backwards. I know you said you didn't want to lay down for the Glazers, but their position overnight just became a whole lot stronger thanks to this proposal that's put in there. And you might just have to give them what they want. You might.
Maybe it's a ploy for them to do that. Maybe this is a ploy for the Glazers to, obviously Rain Group coming in and submitting that bid of saying they want to finance obviously is real. That Elliott. Is real. You can't just sorry, Elliott, not Rain. That is real. But maybe that is the Glazers. And I'm just trying to go on the side of optimism here and half full, because I just feel like this is going to be a really negative morning and day if I don't. Maybe their preferred option still is to drive up that price, get an extra billion out of it, and clear off. But at the same time, you can't rule this out, because this is the perfect scenario for them to be in. They are now back in the driving seat. And also, if you look at look at the division that it caused between our Saudi bid, Qatari bid, Jim Ratcliffe bid. And sometimes it was be careful what you wish for, but in that way, do you want Middle Eastern owners? Do you want Sir Jim Ratcliffe, who there's still going to be debt? Or there was all of that. All of a sudden, forget that. Everybody forget that, because this is this is the point what we've been making here on this channel and in general. Everybody is united in the fact that they want the Glazers out. And we've gone through that process, and we've gone through that exciting process. And we said it a couple of shows ago. We're now entering into that process where actually this is quite tough to deal with as a fan. You don't know where this is going to go. You've got differences of opinion on who the owners should be. And actually, don't discount these lots staying. And now we're back into a bit where if someone said, would you want Sir Jim Ratcliffe or this? It doesn't matter what you thought about the Qataris. No. Just give me Sir Jim Ratcliffe now. If you didn't want the Qataris and you wanted Sir Jim Ratcliffe, and now you see this, and someone said, do you want the Qataris or this? You'd go, well, anything but I don't want the Glazers to stay, getting finance. So now, this is a reminder of why we have to stay united as a fan base. I get it. You're going to want different things out of an owner. You're going to have different perspectives. You're going to have different thoughts and feelings about who the owners should be. But one thing we can absolutely all agree on, and I'm looking at all of you here to do this, is that we do not want these owners to stay. And this is the massive slap in the face. Once when we were all over that side in that side of the playground, going, not these lot, but not these lot, but the debt, but this. Glazers just worm their way back in, and now it's down to actually as fans we're like shit. We definitely don't want that. And I'm not saying it's not our fault. It's not because we've been on social media and everyone's got different. I'm not saying that. I'm just raring the point that actually this is another massive reminder of how far this process is of being complete, and that actually there are some possibilities on the cards which aren't good.
And I think it's a good point you make there. Basically saying, look, everyone's got their ideal scenario rather of who their owners would be, like you said, whether it is Qatar, whether it's Sir Jim Ratcliffe, whether it's someone else. And realistically, the ideal scenario is that it's not the Glazers. Forget individuals, who it might not be. The ideal scenario is that it's not the Glazers. And maybe everyone isn't going to get what they want, but if it's not the Glazers, then we kind of have got what we want, right? And that's what we've got to kind of settle on, I think. And like what we're just saying, it's worrying. It's worrying. And
worrying. To
know that they have that option in front of them is concerning. And here's hoping that we get, another report at some point that's like, the other members of the family are like, we don't care. We're leaving. We want out. We don't want you financed, because that's part of it too. There is this whole sibling rivalry going on. Maybe those people might be just like, we just had enough. We just want out. But the problem is with Elliott being involved is it might be a situation whereby the Glazers, Joel and Avram can say, well, we've got this money now. We can buy out our siblings and then we're fine still. So I don't know. I don't know. It's worrying.
Yeah, it's extremely worrying. It's not the news we wanted to wake up to. Well, the news came out last night.
Oh, and also for them, the whole being like, oh yeah, be careful what you say in public about us because we don't want you to sort of smear our name, former glories. Well, they're right to. We haven't won piss all in 5 years. We haven't won a title in 10 years. So you're offended by that. It implies they're doing badly. We are. It's only this season that we're doing all right.
That's another thing again that worries you about this. Glazers throwing the toys out the plan because actually even the new bidders are actually mugging them off. Listen, money talks. The Glazers would take the money. They couldn't give a shit. If somebody offers the 6 billion, I'm not going to say they definitely take it, but that's what they want for the football club. That's the price. So there's a reason why they set that. They won't
think of
exactly. The Glazers haven't got the moral high ground to not take Qatari money.
The stadium's leaking. We've got the most money taken out of us for the last 10 years or whatever. Look at the lack of silverware in the trophy cabinet for the last 5 years, and they're going, I can't believe they've said former glories. You kidding me? Not even like, we haven't got the best facilities, not necessarily in England. We haven't got the best facilities in Manchester anymore. And they're offended because they said that. Oh, and the people that said that, by the way, are willing to pay them like 5 billion quid. Oh, I'm happy to be disparaged for that amount of money. Oh, goodness me.
They're a joke. They're an absolute joke. And that just sums them up. Hearing that, don't talk ill of us. Please don't do that. And why is it just towards the Qatari? Who reported that?
I think it was both. It was from the Times. It was the statement from the Qatari one. Yeah, was the former glories were seen as implied criticism of the present owners. But the statements from both Ineos and Qatar prompted Rain to send statements to both, and basically saying you're not allowed to say anything because realistically, the only reason Ineos did a statement is because the Qataris did a statement.
Yeah,
and it was a really good statement.
Yeah. They were like, shit. That makes us look a bit. We need to clarify this a bit. And actually, because it was that, and we did say that from the Qataris at the time that bid, it wasn't just a bid or register of interest. It really was a manifesto, like you said. And all that had to be done was put your price and 2 sentences, isn't it? Really,
yeah.
But
we didn't even have to say anything. It would be reported. You know what I mean? It would have been reported that they put the bid in, but they put the full statement, and
they went, nah, we're going for it. And then Ineos did say, because I was going to say, how are they going to say that about the Qataris when Ineos were like, put Manchester back into Manchester United?
Yeah.
They done the same thing, but fair enough. It says both. I thought it was it a little bit of a witch hunt towards the Qataris there, but at least it was kept mutual in terms of both getting ramifications. But again, it just stinks whether you're trying to have a go at Ineos or whether you're trying to have a go at the Qataris, the Glazers are. It just absolutely stinks of self-righteousness, greed, and absolutely no accountability for how they've run this club into the ground and stripped it of everything that it's about. To the point where it's rotting. Shame on them. Shame on them. On to the Qataris bid though. Hopefully we get there, or a bit away from the Glazers anyway. What's been coming out from them?
What was interesting, so Kaveh Solikov from Sky Sports, after the news about the possibility of Glazers staying and Elliott getting involved in financing them, sent out a series of tweets last night regarding the Qatari bid. And it just goes to show the difference, because he's been saying a lot on Sky Sports News, I've seen, saying the Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Qatar bid are very different. So Sir Jim Ratcliffe's bid, or Ineos's bid rather, isn't for 100% of the entire club. It's for 69%. It's for the Glazers' share, which would imply that the club would still remain a public entity. He just wants to buy the majority shares, whereas the Qatar bid is for everything, and assuming that would actually take the company private as well. So Kaveh Solikov has said that the Qatari bid for Manchester United would wipe out all the club's debts. The Glazer family's 2005 £790 million leveraged buyout deal was funded with borrowed money, which was loaded onto the previously debt-free club. The net debt is still £515 million. The Qatari would pay it all off. Qatar bid for Manchester United has funds in place to buy 100% of the club without any borrowing. Bid believes it's the best offer on the table, not just in terms of price, but also regarding commitment to investing in men's and women's teams, stadium, training ground, and local regeneration. Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani is said to be a Manchester United supporter. United, only club he has ever been interested in buying. So there's lots of big things there. Obviously, the big one being that no debts. Everything's wiped out. Any debts that are there, and remember, as Kave says, when the Glazers purchased the club, that was a debt-free club at the time. All that debt was loaded onto Manchester United, and the Qatari bid's willing to wipe it all out. And we've heard this from the start as well, that they're confident. And I still think they will still be confident that they are the best bid, and they are quietly confident that they'll succeed. But again, and again, I know that there's a lot of people that, don't want the Qatari bid or all that kind of stuff, but it's just, it's curious to know what can possibly be of this whole time we're talking about debt and interest payments and this, that, and the other. And Sheikh Jassim's basically said, no, you don't have to worry about any of it. It's gone. It'll all be gone, which is wild to think.
It is wild to think. That's what we want to hear as Man United fans, isn't it? Debt completely gone. Although it is interesting that, the club's worth 5 billion, right? 5 to 6 billion. The debts are at 500 to 600 million. It's like 10% of it is in debt. And it's like, if you have the right owners who start paying off that debt, it's not a deal breaker. It isn't. I think I want the debt gone. Absolutely. It's because we're kind of scarred by the word debt, aren't we? And we're scarred by owners who haven't paid it off and have allowed it to accrue to a high point whilst taking out their own money, or taking out money without putting any money in. Again, having debt serviced is really what we want. If somebody came in and said, obviously, okay, we'll wipe it, that's like music to our ears. But also, if a new owner came in and said, even if it was Qataris or whoever, said, and we're going to, clear the debt by 2020, whenever. And that basically there was a plan for it. Obviously, the Qataris got the endless pot of money. So they're like, we'll just get rid of that straight away. So obviously we want that to happen. But in fairness, and then this is me being impartial to both sides of owners, me personally, as long as that debt is managed properly and can be either paid off or payments made towards it to keep reducing it, or money is being put into the football club at other areas, but the debt stays there at that, and it's manageable. I don't mind that. I don't. That's not the be all and end all for me. For me, the committal to investing into the club, which that is part of it, needs to be there, because, like I said, 10% of the club's whole value being in debt, if that's managed correctly, i.e. someone's paying it off, i.e. someone's invested in other areas, and once it's all invested in, then they'll get to the debt. There are things that can be managed. Loads of clubs are in debt. But what we've seen here at Man United is the Glazers leave it to accumulate, and they're taking to the point where now the club has no money and they basically want to sell, or they need a cash injection. So I want the debt gone. That is music to my ears. Absolutely wonderful. If somebody can come in and wipe it off in one go, brilliant. If somebody can come in and guarantee or set out a procedure that was going to address it, to get rid of it, brilliant. But it's staying there and just with money being drawn out in the Glazer fashion, can't happen anymore.
No, and also as well, and again, and this is why it's almost frustrating that the Glazers have said to, or Rain has said to these people, basically don't say anything, because for people like Sir Jim Ratcliffe, I'd like to know, I would like to know what his process would be regarding that, because I believe in the statement, I don't have it in front of me, but I believe on the statement that was released by Ineos, it was saying about no fresh debt. There's going to be no fresh debt added on to Manchester United, because the debt's going to be against Ineos, not Manchester United. But then the question would be, well, what is going to happen with that debt that's still at United? Is that going to be wiped off when you purchase it, or like is that still just going to be there? And then to your point, Flex, that they're going to try and remove it gradually over time. Those things we still don't really know. And to your point, it's not a deal breaker. It would be, I think, an ideal scenario to not have any of those debts against Manchester United, considering the fact that they've been there since 2005. Are you kidding me? Again, the only payments that have been made have been interest payments. There's been no desire. And this goes back to the Glazers if they were to stay. If the Glazers were to stay, that debt still isn't going anywhere. They're still going to pay the interest payments. That will still be there in 10 years' time. They'll be like, oh,
yeah, if the Glazers stay, they ain't. Yeah, exactly. They ain't going to do it.
Exactly. And that would be, again, the concern. So it's curious to know. And again, I think the Qatari bid, when they're saying that, we believe that we're the best offer on the table, I'm sure they probably do financially, because to your point, like you said, they've got an endless pit of wealth that they can think, well, any financial issue that you're having, we can wipe it off immediately. So again, certainly interesting what could be. But again, it's even that news is almost like not a bit of a downer, but you're almost looking at it a little bit going, oh, but what if they stay? Like, does it even matter at this point? I don't know how to feel, Flex.
I know. I just sent you a message in the chat there. It is hard. It is hard because you don't know how to feel, and you're thinking, where is this going to go? How is this going to pan out? And you don't want to start off the week Monday morning when it should be match day reloaded. We do apologize.
I know.
It should be match day reloaded, but there's so much going on, and there's so much to do. It's like, at what point are we going to get what we want? At what point are we going to, see? And you know what? We're going to have to wait and see. This is going to be a long process. Clearly, what we would love to see now is that news of the Glazers kind of wanting to stay and then being backed. We'd want to kind of see that dwindle. We'd want to see a bit more, reported on the other side of things, which is, of bids getting accepted or people leading the race, because this is very concerning. There's a lot to talk about this morning. Smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. That is the latest on the ownership situation. And as it is all going on at Manchester United, there's been a lot this morning on new contracts for a lot of players, our key players. And David Ornstein has had a lot to say this morning as well. It is all going off this morning. We've spoken about this batch of players, haven't we, for quite a bit, whether starting from Fred, Luke Shaw, Diogo Dalot, Rashford, and De Gea, that core five. And actually, it's really interesting to see how perception has changed on a few of these players and maybe stayed the same on some, let's get into it, Owen. What's the latest that we've got in terms of looking at player contracts?
Yeah, so again, David Ornstein, to be fair, it's kind of what we already knew and what was already out there previously, saying that initial conversations over a new long-term contract for Marcus Rashford have taken place and more are planned. New contract talks are also progressing with David De Gea, Luke Shaw and Diogo Dalot. Fabrizio Romano has also said that contract talks will continue with Diogo Dalot, who's considered a key part of the project. So basically, Flex, I mean, again, it's more of a sort of touching base situation, but these talks are ongoing, essentially.
Yeah.
And to be honest,
and they always have been, really.
Out of all of them, I would expect them all to stay at this point.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if any, contract talks completely collapse. Marcus Rashford, I mean, considering the situation right now, I mean, it would be crazy for him to be. I mean, it's 2024. His contract expires, isn't it? If we go into this summer and he hasn't signed a new contract, I'd be like, oh my goodness me, that is quite alarming, certainly.
Yeah,
and
good sign.
We talk about all the time we've spoken about players they've got to earn to get new contracts. I think having your best season ever is kind of earning it, isn't it?
And it's really ironic that we all said that, didn't we? I was in that group. I was in the group of let's not sell him. I definitely was in that. I think you was as well. Or did you? What did you say at the time?
It
wasn't real life.
Way earlier this season, and to be fair, it's still the same now. Even with Rashford playing as well as he's playing, it would be, if you don't want to be here, then don't be here. But I get the impression he wants to be here. So
absolutely, yeah. Because you have to remember. I think context is key. I think some people can ridicule people for saying that they thought it was best he leaves. Even Gary Neville was talking about it yesterday in his podcast. He was like, I actually thought it just looked like he needed a refresh, like it had to be away from here. The pressure of being a young boy from around the way, coming through the youth academy, it looked like it was all gone. It did. I was very worried for him. And it got to, and then how bad the whole team was last year. We were definitely in that mindset of, because obviously we're emotionally charged after a horrible season like last year. So our thing was, whoever the new manager wants to get rid of, let him do it.
Yeah.
Let him, none of them have proved that they're good enough to stay here.
Yeah.
So if the new manager wants to come in and get rid, then we'll support the new manager. But I remember saying I wouldn't sell him to PSG unless the new manager decided that was the right thing. But I would give him another year. And it's not about, if you didn't say that and you did, then shame on you.
I was right. I told you. Yeah, I told you I was right.
It was just interesting that actually it's just more about highlighting the come up, really, about where he's come from. There was a legitimate conversation where people wouldn't have called you crazy or reactionary or a bad fan with the conversation of, should Marcus Rashford go to PSG? if they came in with 80 million. That was a
generic,
that was a really real thing. And it was probably 50-50, I would say. There was a lot of people at the time saying that. A lot of people saying, well, yeah, you know, he's reached his ceiling. He's never going to be world class. He's not going to do this. He's never going to be that. You know, sometimes he plays good, sometimes he doesn't, and and this season shows it. Let's get rid and get the money. We can get someone 10 times better. There was that argument. Then there was, no, absolutely not. You know, with a good manager who knows what he's doing, he's going to revitalize his squad. We'll see a better Marcus Rashford. Nobody maybe thought to this level, but we would see a better Marcus Rashford and a better Man United. And that's what's happened. So for me, absolutely is a no-brainer. He's got to stay. You talk about people earning their contracts. Luke Shaw, you talk about people earning contracts. You talk about this thing, right? Where how many times have we said with Luke Shaw, it just feels like we're waiting for that potential from that young kid who came from Southampton, and we're waiting for him to be that player. I would say this is Luke Shaw's best moment of his career.
Took a while, but we got there. I feel like we're getting there.
And there's always been positive signs from Luke Shaw. He had the other season before the World Cup, didn't he? Where he was the season where Telles came in. Before the Euros, where Telles came in, and it looked like he might lose his place to Telles, and then it looked like he might lose his place to Brandon Williams. Anytime there's been a bit of competition, to be fair to Luke Shaw, he's raised it. Whether that's been Brandon Williams, Telles, and now Malacia, he's gone, right, I want this. And actually, he's done more than that. He's done more than I want this. He's come in at centre-back and just, honestly, when he doesn't play, we're not as calm.
He's a senior pro. He's a senior player at this point. He's a senior player, like you said. He's a calming influence. He's become, you know, sometimes you see these players abroad in like Spain or Germany, and they go like, "Oh yeah, he's really good. He plays centre back. He plays left back. He could play midfield." And you go, "Oh man, it's amazing." Luke Shaw could be that. If Luke Shaw started like defensive midfield in the next game, you would be like, "Oh, it's a bit surprising," but you know he could do it. You'd be like, but you know he could do it. You know, so he's so important. He's so quality, and I again expect him to stay. Dalot, I mean, I don't see why he would go anywhere. He's still really young as well. It's funny because he's just gone slightly off the boil because of the World Cup after the injury and with the Wan-Bissaka situation.
Bro,
I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I said, who's the number one right back? And I said, I tell you what, it might be Wan-Bissaka. And people were like, oh, I don't know about that. But I honestly, ask Ten Hag.
Wan-Bissaka was rested yesterday. He was rested for Barcelona.
Yeah.
And, well, you never know. Ten Hag might pull a trump card and then Dalot starts against on Thursday. But it looks like they're just doing that. And you know what? Good. That's, you know, that is what we want in this squad. That is what we want. Like genuine competition for places and genuinely not a massive drop-off in quality when one starts over the other. Because what it used to be is Wan-Bissaka's good in one-on-one situations, but he can't really contribute to attacks, and he's struggling with that. And you see where Dalot excels. And then it'll be, if there's an amazing left winger, you want, you know, Dalot sometimes defensively isn't as good in one-on-one situations as Wan-Bissaka, so you play him. And sometimes, no one sometimes actually needs to be the out-and-out best. Sometimes it can just be, you vie for your positions, different horses for different courses, and actually, whoever suits that game better, they're fighting fit. They're going against each other, and it keeps them. Remember that season where, going back a bit, where just before we got Alexis Sanchez, Jose Mourinho used to have Marcus Rashford and Martial both in and out of the team. And I know, like, obviously, in that case, they're both young players. We wanted them both in, and it was like, get the best out of both. But I'm saying, in that moment, they were doing really well. Whoever started on the bench would come on and score and contribute, and vice versa. And, you know, you can't rule out. Sometimes I think we get fixated on somebody must be the out-and-out best and somebody has to be the number one starter. It doesn't always work.
I say this all the time with signings. All the time with signings when people go, well, what about this person? He's not going to want to sit on the bench. Well, good. Yeah, good. But someone will. They have to. Yeah. That's like, you know, sometimes we, in games, yesterday with Sancho, in all respects, you'd go, well, why is Sancho not starting? But then you realize it's because a game's played over 90 minutes and you need someone to come on at halftime, 60, 70 minutes to go, actually, we're saving them for those last 20 because that's when we can win the game. We might not be able to win it in those opening 70. So you need squad. And when it comes to David De Gea, yesterday, we'd have lost. I'm telling you now, Flex, it was 3-0. It could have been a lot different. So particularly that second save. I mean, it's ironic actually that he equaled Peter Schmeichel's clean sheet record, because that second save is just Schmeichel's save. Behind him, a scoop, just a giant hand, and he somehow manages to get it off the line. That is a world-class save. And how many times does he have to do that? Not even like in his career, this season. How many times?
It's recent. Yeah, it's not like something in the past. He still does it.
This season, and then people will still go like, "Yeah." I mean, I tweeted out. I said, you can talk about distribution all you want, but other keepers can't make that save. And then again, and because it's just people are fixated on it, they went, "Yeah," but for one of them, it was his kick and it came all the way back. I went, "It went through like 3 people. It went through like people." I saw one the other day of someone like it was
he passed one to Fred, which was bad.
It was a punch out from De Gea. I think it was a couple of weeks ago, and they sped up the rest of it. Like
to get past
that, and then it went in. I went, obviously, you can do all that kind of stuff. Like it's just, and I saw like Emi Martinez against Arsenal. People talking about his distribution. He did some bad kicks. Edison did some bad kicks. Alisson, fair play. He set up a red card with his kick at the weekend. He makes bad kicks as well. No goalkeeper. It's the biggest myth. Has this 100% distribution of, they're always pinging balls. Well, I saw in that game, De Gea made some really good passes. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's the one. They're waiting for the one. Even though, again, we could have and should have been 2-0 down. And that's a totally different game if he's not in goal.
Look, at the end of the day, everyone says that they back Ten Hag and listen to this manager. He's amazing. He's this, that, and the other. Well, listen to him talk about David De Gea. Listen to what he says. He says, he made world-class saves. We were lucky. We were very lucky. And he said, apart from Rashford and Bruno, and obviously De Gea, he said the rest in the first half, rubbish. He actually said that. He said rubbish.
I don't have enough time.
Yeah, exactly. He said the rest were rubbish, and I could see at halftime that we needed it. Look, at the end of the day, I think when you do have the word agenda is negatively used, but it doesn't always have to be. An agenda is just something that you believe that you're kind of fixated on that, and that's your point. That's your agenda, right? That's the point you want to make. And look, there is still leverage in saying, you want a keeper to, in this modern day game, be a bit more progressive with the ball and positionally be higher up and command the area and all of these things. But I just think sometimes, a lot of the time, the fundamentals of a goalkeeper gets forgotten. Like I said, I was at the World Cup and I know it was only a small sample size. I saw, what's his name? Diogo Costa. I saw him up live in personal. Yeah, some nice little kicks and that. And then I saw him coming out against flipping Morocco. Couldn't catch the cold, mate. Conceded. Like, I've seen some of these keepers that everybody waves and waxes lyrical about how amazing the kicks are. Ramsdale, another one, like good keeper, does some questionable things. He concedes the equalizer to the Martinez when he comes out off his line, nowhere near it. Martinez headers it in, but he's an elite kicker. Like, it happens. Like the same way how these elite kickers have shit, maybe shot stopping or shit decision making sometimes and make big decisions wrong. It's the same way how David De Gea is not going to be flawless with the ball at his feet, but he continuously saves us points. Now, again, with this one, I just don't get the whole feeling strongly one way or another. I spoke to a fan the other day. Do you know what he said to me? I had to argue with him. And I take everybody's football argue. I take everybody's opinions in. We were talking about David De Gea, and because I know he doesn't really fancy him. He went, nah, man. I said, come on, man. He's been great for 10 years, pretty much. And then now is a bit of a. He goes, nah, he's let us down for 10 years, to be honest, bro. He's let us down. Like I said, I'm not talking to you. I said, I'm not talking to you. You can't even say he's let us down, because I was like, for probably 2 of those years, maybe 3 at a max, he was the best keeper in the world at one stage, and he's always been in the top 8. Sort of thing, whether he's 8th or whether he's 2nd or whatever. He's always been in the top crop of keepers. And I still believe he is. I still believe he's in the top 10 keepers in the world.
I find it bizarre, because then when you say, like, you'll say about that and you go, how many times has he won Player of the Year or Players Player of the Year or Fans Player of the Year? And somehow they blame that like that's his fault. They go,
his fault. They'll
go, yeah, distribution, whatever. He has to bail himself out. Don't work like that.
It's madness.
Done. Although again, they'll highlight individual goals and go like, see, this is why. And you go, what? They balance up. And if anything, it's overbalanced with the amount of saves he makes, And a lot of the time it is bad defending or it is bad stuff in the midfield,
exactly. I have been, listen, and again, for course, for balance in this debate.
You get it. You get the argument. I've said this before. I've said it
in
before.
The stadium.
I get
it.
In
Barcelona. I sat in this KG. I went, a couple of these at the highest level, man. He's knocking a couple where that's what people are talking about. I get it. He done in the first half against City as well. Sorry, second half against City when they were pressuring us, kicking them out blind. There was one where I know it went through 3 people, but yesterday he put one into Fred. Fred's got a man right up his arse. We're in a bad moment of the game. Bad decision, David. Bad decision.
Yeah.
Fred's not the most press resistant. He doesn't want the ball, 10, 20 yards from our penalty box with a man up his arse in a congested midfield. He ain't Frankie de Jong. You can't give him that ball. So absolutely, I agree. There are, certain things that David lacks, but I do think it counterbalances itself when you have a keeper that makes so much saves. And also with this, I'm happy to go where Ten Hag wants to go with it. I don't feel that strongly either way. I just don't like the slander of that. Marcel, sometimes, and I'm just using Marcel as an example because he's the person that I know the most and speak to the most about this, and Cam, but Marcel would say, this keeper is not good enough for this level. He's not a high quality keeper. He's not high level. And, and it's not just Marcel, other people, I'm not having an agenda against Marcel. Other people will make that, the game's gone past him. He's like he's this old school keeper who can't compete in this era.
Yeah,
the guy is single-handedly saving us points. Sit down. Like, it's as simple as that.
And also, like you say, it's gone past him, but it's not as if it's almost implied like his distribution this season has got worse. It's got better. It has got better. Now, how much can it improve? Maybe it can only improve to the point it's at right now. And to your point, I totally agree. And this has always been my point: is that if Ten Hag makes that call and he goes, you know what, I think we should go in this direction. Fine, no problem. And I do agree that his wage that he's on way too high. He can't be on 300. He's not the best keeper in the world to be at that level in terms of finances. That's silly. That is silly. But at the same time, I just think sometimes it's just over the line of disrespect. And again, as we said about the whole takeover thing, to round it up, be careful what you wish for. Because when he's not there, we've seen what happened when he doesn't play in certain games and we go, oh, actually, maybe he's doing a good job, right?
Exactly. So, and that's not to say that anybody that is not to say that anybody who dares, talk about his distribution is a disgrace and a cheat and you're disrespecting him. But there are, I think some people go over the top. But to the people who don't go over the top, and the people who just see it as he does make good saves, but I want a keeper that's more progressive. I want to see us, from back to front, be flawless in this new look Manchester United. Fair play. I understand that. I do understand that. And I just back our manager to get that decision correct when the time's right. We need a striker. We need to improve in midfield. We're going to need more centre halves in the summer, I imagine. I think Harry Maguire is going to get sold. I think, obviously, Eric Bailly is going to get sold. Obviously, Phil Jones will go. Between Lindelof and Maguire, something's got to give there. One or both are going to go. Probably just one. But I just think there's a lot more to fix than getting rid of David De Gea. But if he brings in a David Raya, and starts integrating him because he's a really attainable fee because he only got 1 year left. So you could get him for like 30 million, couldn't you? 30, 40 million. I wouldn't be opposed to that. Bring him in. Let them both then we don't really have a out and out number one next year. It's kind of a bedding in period of the new process of weaning ourselves off David De Gea. I'm also happy with that as well. And the last one, Fred, before we wrap up, about his new contract. For me,
keep him.
I'm keeping him all day. It was really interesting doing the fan views yesterday. We had the American lady. She came on with her friend, and she was a massive Fred fan. And Bradley as well done a really good fan view. People really like him, Bradley. He's a great kid, Bradley. And he literally said, Fred, like a box of chocolates. And even when you look on social media, you see, and just talking to everyone around the ground, Fred is the only player that not even in the same game, in the same half, can have a 10 out of 10 performance and a 2 out of 10. So he'll play like 10 out of 10 for 15 minutes. Then he'll play 5 out of 10 for the other 15. And then the third 15, he'll play like a 6 out of 10. And then second half will be brilliant.
But against Barcelona as well. Barca did it as well. Barca first half, he was awful. He was awful in the first half. Second half, he was brilliant. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. And Fred got an assist yesterday, essentially. I know Marcus Rashford had to carry the ball a little bit, but he plays a nice weighted pass. Away at the Nou Camp, you can't afford to get that pass wrong into Marcus Rashford. I know it's a fairly easy pass, but if you get it wrong or the weight of pass, it's a sort of pass where if Fred gets it wrong, you say, that's why you don't want Fred there and you want Bruno in the middle playing that pass. Fred plays the pass. He sees the pass. So that's 2 assists in 2 games. He's having an impact. And actually, when we're in bad moments, which actually he contributes to by giving the ball away, being a bit clumsy, not press resistant, he counters that, again, like with the David De Gea kicking thing, he counters that by he's able to dust it off, keep smiling, keep his energy tank high, run around like a blue-ass fly and win it back and disrupt the play and win the ball back and then get assists. So Fred, and he makes everybody smile. He makes the place a better place to be. You can't underestimate that. And I think Fred is a perfect squad player. And let's have it right. When we get our midfield back to where it is, when Eriksen's back, Casemiro's back, and we buy again in the summer,
Sabitzer.
Fred will go back. Sabitzer's, up the levels again. You can already see what we're doing. Fred. Yeah. We've literally ripped apart that midfield pivot that we hated so much in McTominay and Fred. It's gone. Maguire and Lindelof, McTominay and Fred. That was the four in like a little box. That was the heart of Manchester United. That's gone. We are weaning ourselves off of that. And we're just in a situation where Fred actually before that was coming off the bench for 15, 20 minutes and doing really well at contributing. That's his role. And then when you need him to do something more than that, he goes, no problem, boss. I'll do that. I'll give it my all. I'm not going to get it right all the time, but I'll give it my all. And for me, I'm giving Fred an extension for sure, because he will be a squad player. He's not going to be the main guy. We will still invest. You can tell how Ten Hag wants to play. And ideally, he doesn't want Fred to be the starter because we've seen it. It's Eriksen, Casemiro the whole season. Or a player like Eriksen who dictates the play and is really good on the ball, which is fine. But one thing you do know is that Erik Ten Hag loves certain players in his squad, that they're dependable, reliable players. Wout Weghorst is another one, So yeah, I would give all of those players contract extensions. There you go. Smash the like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Get in the comment section below, because I tell you what, we finished on a bit of positive, waxing lyrical about how good those 5 players have been for us. But the beginning half of the show, it was like a Fred performance. The beginning half of the show was not the best because we've got a report on the Glazers potentially staying at this football club. So let us know what you think about that. Today, we've got the tactical view coming out and the full view later on as well. Jam-packed day, as per usual, in the lead up to Barcelona. Massive, massive game. With Erik Ten Hag, rousing the fans saying, come on, make sure you're here on Thursday. We beat Barcelona together, eh? Oh, it was unbelievable. Unbelievable. Anyway, we're out of here. Take care. Peace.